Hello there and welcome to another Coffee with Colin, and thank you for joining me. I put a post out during the week, a small post, and it said that attitude is what makes the difference between an ordeal and an adventure. Attitude is what makes the difference between an ordeal and an adventure. Life is full of problems. You and I, every morning that we're privileged to wake up, we wake up knowing that we've got some stuff to handle in order to make it through to the end of the day. And that truly is a privilege because if you think about it, what's the alternative? Hello? Anyway, when he was asked why he only used wood from storm-damaged trees to make his violins, apparently Stradivarius said, "Weatherbeaten wood makes the sweetest music." And I think that's true of life. I think we all know of examples of people who've weathered some terrible storms in their life, and yet they're the sweetest humans on the planet. You know, the problems that we face every day will either serve to make us bitter or they'll serve to make us better, one or the other. We can't be the same. Once we encounter a problem, we've got to get through it one way or the other, and we end up coming out the far side either bitter or better. And if we take Stradivarius' example, well then, those of us that have weathered the biggest storms perhaps should in fact make the sweetest music. But it's true that every single day we wake up knowing that we've got to face some challenges. And the secret, if there is a secret here, is to learn to make friends with that fact. Learn to make friends with that fact. Make friends with the fact that your job, and my job on this planet, is to handle whatever problems come our way. And that's what keeps us vital, keeps us alive, keeps us strong. We've all had those days, of course, where all we want to do is pull the covers over our heads and go back to sleep and write the day off. But that's not an answer. It's certainly not a long-term solution to anything. So the secret is really to make friends with the fact that your job, and mine too, is to overcome challenges that come our way. And in overcoming those challenges, we improve our own lives, but we also oftentimes improve the lives of others. If you think about it, our careers are all about solving problems. If there weren't problems for us to solve, well, then we wouldn't be needed. You know, the people around us could handle everything if there wasn't a problem that was beyond their pay grade, for want of a term. So let's be grateful for the problems that exist in our lives. Regrettably, problems can at times be frustrating. You know, the relentless handling of problems can at times be frustrating. And unfortunately, at worst, can be overwhelming. And for those very tragic few, they can get to breaking point, regrettably. But the reality is that most problems are handleable, most problems are solvable over time. And the key to it is to know that you'll overcome. And you know that you'll overcome because you've overcome to date. And how do I know that you know that you'll overcome? Because you're sitting here listening to this, right? You know, you're watching this video. In other words, you've overcome everything in your life to date. And therefore, you know deep down that you can overcome anything. You've had to overcome some terrible stuff, I'm quite sure, because you're alive, you're human, as have I. But you're here and you're listening to this and you're watching this video, and so you know you'll overcome anything that's thrown in your path. So the secret is, going forward, is to learn to dance with life. Learn to dance with life rather than resisting it. There is a particular martial art that I'm aware of. Forgive me for not knowing the name of it. Perhaps somebody out there can help me with this. But there's a particular martial art out there, form of martial arts that uses the opponent's force against the opponent. So rather than the martial art form being one of attack, it's actually one of defense, but it's one of passive defense. It's one whereby, as I say, the aggressor's own force gets used against it. And you can just imagine this beautiful dance that's happening between an aggressor and a passive resistor, and the passive resistor simply just dances out of the way, and you know, the aggressor gets thrown to the ground, etc. The same perhaps could be applied to life. You know, if life keeps buffeting you and keeps throwing stuff your way, well then perhaps it's time to start to learn to deflect it rather than fighting against it. Doesn't that sound easier? I think it does. A phrase I came across some time back, perhaps you heard it yourself, or a version of it, is I used to complain I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet. You see, there's always somebody worse off than you or I. Always somebody worse off than you or I. And I think really we need to become a little more grateful for the good things in our life. Realize that life is about handling problems, but that's not a problem in itself. That's simply, as I said at the top of the piece, attitude makes the difference between an ordeal or an adventure. And I'm proposing to you that for the next 7 days that you in fact wake up and embrace the adventure that is your life, and realize that yes, you're going to have to handle some stuff. Of course you are. That's what keeps you alive. So you're going to have to handle some stuff, make peace with it, make friends with it, know you're going to overcome, dance with it, and have the adventure of your life next week. Why not? And I'm going to finish on this, if I may. The real secret to embracing life, to dancing with life, to making friends with the fact that problems are a fact of life, the real secret is having a purpose in life. The real secret is having a purpose in life. If you know why you exist, if you know what your mission is, if you know that you're on track, if you've got a vision out there in the future of the life you want to lead and the legacy you want to leave, well, that's how you'll overcome the problems. That's how you'll overcome the challenges, because you know exactly where you're headed. It's when, I think they say in the Bible, you know, when people lose their vision, they perish. And it's true of you or me too. If we lose our vision, we're going to perish, because we'll simply become overwhelmed by the problems of day-to-day living. And that's not good enough. That's not living, that's existing. So going back to what I said at the very top of the program, which is attitude is what makes the difference between an ordeal and an adventure. And as I said to you, I propose that you and I decide to have an adventure next week. And as ever, in conclusion, we're asking the two questions, the big rock question and the one thing question. So the big rock question: what is the big rock for you around this conversation? What is going on with you that this is bringing to the surface? Figure it out for yourself. What's the big rock? What's the most important thing that you need to do, that you know you need to do? Figure that out and write it down. And then the second question, the one thing question, is based on that big rock, based on what you know you need to do, what one thing can you do this week that'll have the biggest positive impact on that big rock that you've identified? What one thing can you do this week that will have the biggest positive impact on that big rock that you've identified? And thank you for joining me for this week's Coffee with Colin. I hope and trust as ever that you got something from it. If you have done and you think somebody else would benefit, I would be delighted if you'd pass the link on. If it's your first time here and you'd like more of this type of stuff, well then please pop to the homepage, ColinO'BrienMotivation.com, leave me some details and I'll make sure you get a link like this every week. Most importantly, please consider what's been shared here today and apply it into your thinking for this next week. And then equally as importantly, please come back next week and we share another coffee together, and I will ruminate on some other aspect of life and business. Between now and then, get some good coffee for sure, get some fresh air for sure. If you spend a lot of time alone, I recommend you go meet some people. Likewise, if you spend a lot of time with people, I recommend you spend a little time alone. And then when the time is right, and only when the time is right, get your head back in the game, get organised for the week ahead, make next week an adventure, make next week count, and I'll see you here this time next week for another Coffee with Colin. Sláinte. I really love great coffee. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.